There we go. Should be live. We've got Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, all going here. So
Woo!
Matt, thanks for coming on, man. Yeah,
Thank you for having me, Matt.
yeah, no problem. I know, like you said, Kevin Mayer, he hopefully will join us here in a few minutes. I know, things come up. It's the reality of being a real estate investor, as many people on this stream will find out or already know. Yeah, well, excited to welcome you on. I know this is kind of a special lunch and learn edition of our real fault leaders spotlight series. We love bringing on people like yourself who are truly experts in your space, and you guys it's funny to watch you on watch your social content because you guys just have so much fun. It's great.
Thank you. We were happy to be on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So I know we've done, masterminds together and things like that. I've always been super impressed by you guys. I believe, is it over 300 flips and under your belt? Is that
I'd say, yeah, at least 300 by now flips. Yeah. And we had up to 500 rental units that we've owned. And I mean, we've actually probably owned more, but at the max that we held at one point in time was 500. So
nice. Yeah. No, so you guys know what you're doing here. So
we're still here. So something right.
That's fair. Well, and a lot of people who are joining and going to be watching today, they might know you better as two guys take on real estate with your, YouTube, TikTok, all that going on. I'll make sure that we share out all, the links for all those channels because we're a big fan of that over here too. So
appreciate it.
Yeah, but welcome on, man.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. And today I know you guys obviously talk a bit about driving for dollars and how to acquire properties and finding off market deals and all that. So that's definitely a topic for everyone watching. And that's going to be, that's joining today. That's a topic that feel free to kind of ask your questions here. We want to keep it conversational and want to get to all of your questions if possible. So, just remember that they're great, at that entire side of the business and anything driving for dollars related, you guys will have some tips and strategies and what's working for you there to share as well. So just wanted to give a little context there.
Yeah, Kevin used to call it driving for dunks.
There we go. Love that.
He's always going to Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, the guy's always going to Dunkin' Donuts.
Well, can you, I know he's not here yet, but can you maybe tell us more about your background personally and how you got into this, why you have so much fun doing it? I'd love to hear your story.
Sure. So my background, I actually I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was about 15 or so, got all super excited. And I'm like, I'm going to do this. This is it. This is my path. And my dad owned a restaurant, just kind of lived it. So I've always been in the entrepreneurial side and spirit. And so I knew I wanted to do something different than just get a job. And so I actually went and bought a duplex at 16 out in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and kind of worked with my grandmother kind of as a hard money lender and got that going. And a lot of trials and tribulations, made some stupid mistakes, but, kind of trudged through it. I did. It was kind of interesting. It was one side was rented normally, and then one was like a boarding house. So I had all these different tenants on that one side, and that was, 16, they didn't know me, and I'm like, I'm the landlord. And it was a very interesting experience for them to kind of understand that I was a kind of authority figure in this space. Mm-hmm. And then just, renovating it and going through and trying to learn all the stuff and doing the stuff while I was 16 years old. So I'm just, going through school and trying to learn all this stuff, which was a process, but it was fun. Oh, look who we got here. Actually, Kevin showed up. Sorry. Come on, Kevin.
Makes quite an entrance here. There you go. Hey, what's up, Kevin?
How are you?
Good, man. Good. Hope all is well. I know, like I was saying, telling Matt, hey, unexpected things happen, in this business. So I appreciate you making it happen still for us today.
Tell me about it. It was close. That was a fun experience just now.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just getting into intros here. So again, for everyone joining, both these guys, awesome guys. They're fun in terms of having fun online. Putting YouTube content, TikTok content, all those channels. Highly recommend you guys following them there and checking them out there. They also, in general, are great at, the whole deal acquisition side, driving for dollars, all of that. So anything around how to find off market deals, questions like that, I think are these guys will have a great perspective on. You guys have done 300 plus flips, and I have like 500 different units currently being managed under your belt. So I know you guys have quite the experience there to really be able to talk about. So just want to continue to give people context on everything they can be asking you about. But yeah, Kevin, glad you could join us. I know Matt's kind of telling his story. Matt, I don't want to interrupt. If you want to kind of finish your journey there, and then Kevin, I'd love to hear your side of it too, man.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear the kind of stuff Matt's making up on the spot for this.
Wow. I mean, I'm doing my best. But yeah, no. So basically, I had that 2-family under my belt and sold it a few years later, made a little profit. Kind of, met this guy, and all the time I was also trying to do a 4-family out of state. And that was also a new experience. I was about 19 years old, and I tried to do a 4-family out in Saginaw, Michigan. And I flew out there. I checked the property out, met a property manager guy, and all that kind of stuff. About a year later, it turns out basically, the property manager stole from me. I switched property managers. They let it go vacant. I got the whole property got robbed, the toilets, the plumbing, the sink, literally the kitchen sink, all stolen. And then it was found out, my insurance company found out basically that because it was vacant for it was 50% vacant for more than 3 months, they denied my whole claim. So I had to go through that whole process. So I'm 19, have a completely vacant, stripped 4-family out in Saginaw, Michigan. I'm out in Massachusetts. It was stressful, but going forward a few more years, met Kev. We started about 12 years ago now. Today, this company here. Yeah,
there you go. I think, Kevin, can you tell us more? I know, Matt, that's a wild story. I have plenty of questions on that too. But yeah, Kevin, tell us more about your background. And I was saying too, you guys obviously clearly have a lot of fun doing this. So would love to hear your personal passion on why you do this, why you're you're excited to do it every day.
Well, I gotta think on my feet to come up with a good answer for that one. I don't know.
Inspirational.
No, I mean, it's funny. Matt approached me about doing this kind of stuff. And really nagged, I think is better the word nagged. This kind of stuff. He had such an amazing, successful track record with it. Why wouldn't I have immediately been like, yes, let's do this. We're going to crush it. No, it took me a while before I started getting just fully burnt out on making other people's businesses successful. I finished college and immediately put my degree to zero use by starting managing retail businesses. Basically, I did very, very well for these businesses, but I didn't see that in my paycheck. I mean, you only make so much, and I didn't want to climb the rungs, so to speak, with the organizations I was working with. So I was plateaued immediately. I mean, I hit this awesome performance and I stopped, and I started getting really burnt out. I was putting in a lot of work, making other people very wealthy and successful. And, it was Matt who, started, God, I gotta blame you, I guess. And I started poisoning me with the idea of saying, listen, why aren't you working? You should be working for yourself. We could partner up. We should do this. And finally, it was a few years later, but I finally said, sure, why not? What the hell? I had enough money. We scraped up some money together, and maybe he already went into that, but we all scraped up like $5,000 or so each. We bought about the worst looking property you'd ever seen in your entire freaking life in a really tough city. And we got to work on it. We started rehab. We basically used the Burr method before it was called the Burr method. And, I literally would go to work. I would go to the property to help try to fix it up as best I could with the limited abilities that I could. I mean, they don't even let me paint stuff anymore, guys. This is how bad I am at rehab. So I would go there in the morning with my crappy, rehab clothes on. And then I would bring my nice clothes with me in the trunk of my car. I would change, and then I would go to work for the day. And then at the end of the day, I'd come back to the property, change back in my, paint covered, dirty clothes, and work till midnight with everybody else, trying to do it all ourselves to get going. And, that was 12, 13 years ago, feels like 35 years ago. But, we started with that. It worked. We basically fully executed the Burr method. We brought on other people and other partners over the time since then. And some have come and gone. But I got to tell you, man, I'm not burnt out. I don't know how. I work even harder now than I thought was possible from working really, really hard back then. But I come to the office every day or wherever I'm going every day. I wake up, I'm happy to do it, and a huge smile on my face, whistling a tune and making a joke on my way in. Usually, if I've had coffee, if I haven't had coffee, I'm coming in like this. I'm here, okay? Frickin' Jesus, first, get some rents. No, but I mean, I love it. We have a great time, and honestly, Matt, I'm telling you, Matt, both Matts, I'm telling both you guys, our enjoyment for this, in the fact that we're working for ourselves, we see concrete results with families and households that we're providing, with properties that every single property we've touched was distressed and run down, and we brought them back on track.
Some whole streets,
literally some of the worst streets you ever see in the online news about shootouts on the street, the whole thing. We've taken these streets, and not like all the credit for it. It's not like a whole city block, but like 4 properties on one street will make a major impact when they went from dark, graffiti-ridden properties to nice, functional, well-lit, homes. And and it translates. We have a lot of fun doing this. We like what we do, and our staff gets to have a great work environment where we all have real fun. I mean, everybody brings their dogs in. We've got awesome stuff set up for them. Gyms and a walking track, and we're very just unconventional. People have a lot of fun doing this stuff with us.
Yeah. Love that. I mean, and I think a lot of people who are watching this now or will be watching it would fall into that bucket of maybe they are burnt out at their day job, or maybe they do have a friend who's talking to them and saying, hey, we should do this real estate thing together, So, putting yourself in their shoes, how did you kind of go about finding that first deal? And I know you said BRRRR, like that, probably a good amount of people are familiar with that, but can you kind of walk through that framework and methodology as well when it comes to, finding the deal and then what you did with it from there?
So the first deal we did together was actually a REO property. So this was back in around 2008, end of 2007. Mm-hmm. Things started really kind of tanking down. So we actually met a real estate agent who was extremely hungry and not scared to go into some of these boarded up properties. And so I was going to maybe 10 to 15 properties a day with her. So we were going and looking at every property, and there was so many properties that were boarded up. I probably saw thousands of properties over the first couple of years. And basically that was the first deal. So we had a general idea of what criteria we were looking for. And we knew roughly idea we have to buy at X. We'll work with a hard money lender to, get that, the rehab also covered. And then, we just the ARV has to be somewhere around here so we can at least pull our money back out and hopefully keep, this thing rolling. And so we found this Boston style duplex. And it was.
What market was this, by the way? You said what market was this, by the way? Sorry,
Springfield, Massachusetts.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Got it. And so we got a 5 bedroom, 1.5 bath each side. So we were like, oh, it's going to rent like crazy. So we're going to have big rents, and we got a stellar deal. I think we got it for about $70,000 at the time. And so we quickly closed on it. We were excited. We put an offer in, got it accepted, and then basically went to rehab, and that's kind of how it started.
Nice. And then as you kind of went through, and I mean, obviously you guys have probably learned, quite a few lessons when it comes to rehabbing throughout all of this. But like you said, you buy the property, rehab it, in that rehab stage. Do you have any kind of tips or lessons learned that you've over the years really come to reflect on and say, hey, here are a few mistakes that newbies make, especially on their first property, that you should keep out, an eye out for right away when you're doing that rehab?
Sure. The first thing, make sure you pull permits. Do it the right way. No, I'm serious. Come on. I mean, all too often people, and we were also to blame. I'll tell you right now, we thought, all right, we're going to save a little bit of money, this and that. So we thought we could do it all ourselves, but hire the right people, do it right. And think about our biggest thing is thinking about durability. So, that was the other thing, and thinking about what the market can bear. So what your client base is in that market, we were looking at, mostly C-type class tenants. So it doesn't make sense to put, marble showers in and stuff like that and granite everywhere, so to speak. It made certain we had hardwood floors. I mean, that's one of the biggest things we always did was if it had hardwood floors, we would sand them down and put 3 or 4 coats of poly on it. It looks great, but it's very durable, and the tenants seem to love it. And then as far as the turnover, it's pretty gently go in, scuff it, with an orbital sander, pop on another coat of poly, you're ready for the next tenant, as opposed to changing out the carpet, changing out the pad. Now you got the tax strips got to come up, so on. So
yeah, this was in a time where, we were taking over properties that had hardwood floors, but they were painted, and then they were carpeted, and then they were carpeted. And I mean, you're just pulling through years of pet odors and all sorts of random stuff.
Imagine. Yeah.
What people were doing back then. But durability was a big part of it as well. Standardization of materials was huge. So we did not paint different rooms, different colors, different apartments, different colors. We used one type of color, and we went with that. And that way, if we needed to patch a hole that somebody blew out in a wall or whatever, you didn't have to try to color match it or paint the entire wall.
Standard process.
You had that stuff on hand, ready to go. You didn't have to go to the store and wait for paint and figure all that stuff out.
Generally the same faucets for kitchens and bathrooms, same toilets. I mean, everything pretty much the same. So therefore, parts are generally the same. You can have extra, and you stock them on. Yeah, we have a whole warehouse where we have we have extra toilets, and pretty much I think we have about 250 SKUs that we keep on hand at all times. So our maintenance staff can come in the morning, grab, see the work orders, grab a couple of items, and not head to Home Depot and spend an hour or two sitting in line. Right. Which when we first started, that's what we did. Of course, because that's what made sense. But we worked, with Home Depot and what's they called their optic program, and so that we actually stock it here, and then whenever it goes down under inventory, it automatically sends them an email, and then they basically pull the order and then just charge us, and then we go pick it up, restock.
Yeah, I mean, when you guys go through that and go through the rehab process, is that when you were early days, was that like well thought out of like, hey, we need to establish a process to do this? Or was it kind of just like, what's next? You're kind of running around trying to figure it out. Like how did you think ahead and be able to scale to the level that you guys are operating at, when it comes to rehabbing?
So we did not at first. No way.
Or even for a while, actually.
For a while. It took a lot of late nights for me and finally trying to figure out, wow, I can't do this all myself. That was part of the hardest part for me, was letting go of the control and learning to delegate. And then creating some systems around that, processes to check up on people, and the flow of work. Rough framing first, then rough plumbing, rough electrical. And always have rough plumbing before rough electrical, because it's so much easier to move the electrical than the plumbing. And then and you kind of having that process down, and making sure you have good contracts with your subcontractors and building those relationships up, and that as opposed to just having a crew. We had that at first. We had, a bunch of employees, and they would do all of our rehabs. But then it was, they didn't show up, stuff like that. I'd rather have more control and having subcontractors and let them handle the HR nightmare.
Well, yeah. And then, simply just establishing a really good team. And that was the huge part of it. I mean, having a crew like that doesn't show up, or that shows up wearing freaking sweatpants or something, just absolutely ridiculous. So, being able to, not just budget to pay for good help, but make sure you're able to stay on top of it and manage a team. And that's something where, again, I had a decent background in that as well. I mean, I'd been managing stores and sales teams and stuff like that. So being able to have, people that work with you that and retain good people, and then people that work for you that like working for you and actually like who they're working for, was huge. And, I talk about it like, flipping over cards in a deck of cards. You got to keep flipping cards till you find that ace. And then you find a way to keep that person involved in your organization somehow, and then you keep looking for your next ace. So it took us a long time to do that. I mean, most of our wounds are very much self-inflicted from lack of knowledge, and lack of experience. And I like, we're never going to be the kind of people that shy away from saying, listen, we made every mistake in the book, sometimes twice or three times.
Yep.
But we like to be able to share that with people so that others don't have to go through the same struggles we did.
For sure. We're also very reactionary. We got really good about, a problem comes up, boom, we're handling it right then and there.
Yeah.
But now we've, definitely gotten much better about being proactive. And I think that's really been more to the success.
Yeah.
Making sure you're having, routine checkups on your properties, having routine, your HVAC service routinely, your water heaters. Now all of a sudden you're not in the middle of winter having systems go down as frequently, because you're not, you didn't change out the gas valve earlier when it was sticking, or the filter was changed routinely, and now you're not having a clog or whatever it might be. There's really helpful.
Yeah. And you guys do, I mean, like you said, I think you do a great job of just being very upfront on, here are the mistakes we made, and learn from that, and don't do it yourself. And that's why your social content's great, is you're just authentic and transparent around it. So, Yeah, feel free. Anybody who who's watching here too. Again, we're going to dig into driving for dollars as well with these guys. Feel free to ask any specific questions that you have, whether it be acquiring properties all the way to we're talking about rehabs, fundraising, or paying for the property, anything real estate investing related. These guys will have some experience to talk about. So. Yeah, I love. I know you touched on it briefly, Kevin, but the team aspect of this. Can you kind of tell me a little bit there of as you guys started, like when you made that first hire, and what are the roles that you really started to hire for, and how that kind of came about and has evolved over time?
I would say initially we were a complete fail in terms of how we were doing our hiring and how we were overseeing our people and the management of our team, and that was mainly because we spent so much time being out in the field ourselves, doing stuff ourselves. And I remember, I want to say it was 2010. Jesus, that's a long time ago when you say it like that. I remember probably 2010, and I don't know what we were doing. I was pulling up, like those stair tread squares that go in the middle of a stair tread, like the carpet things on this back hallway of a multifamily house. And I'm like, and it was dark out. So, and this is like summertime. So I'm thinking it's probably 9 o'clock at night. I'm thinking to myself, why the hell am I doing this? My time can definitely be better spent somewhere else. This is something that a minimum wage person, this is just a regular laborer type of job, or just a regular employee, a starting entry level guy should be doing. I should be, checking on him and then checking on 10 other guys like him, to make sure these things are being done. Instead of me spending my time doing that, my time was better spent somewhere else. So we really started to shifting our roles then as we got, some decent amount of properties under our belt to start spending more time. And actually, we set up an actual office in one of our properties, and actually spent time there. And we're making calls and scheduling things and doing things. That then allowed us to then identify problems with staffing and saying, listen, wow, we can really do better. This person was late every day this week, or we had one person that was on our team that on the tenant relations side of things, and she had a schedule, and there was many weeks where she never once worked her actual schedule. She was always coming in late and staying late to make up for it, or coming in a bit early because she's got to leave early that day. Those kind of crazy things, it's awesome to be a small company and be flexible, but on the other hand, you need to be able to rely on people. You need to be able to, know you're going to have somebody there when you need them there. You need to know that they're going to execute and do what you need them to do when you assign them something. So not being afraid to upgrade and make a change. And not everybody is going to be the right fit. They may be awesome people, but they might not just be the right fit for what you need on your team. And, I think that's something we, to some extent, some of us kind of struggle with. Some of us kind of struggle with a little bit with acknowledging that. And I can still think somebody's an amazing person and just a phenomenal, but it's not going to work for what it's going to hurt me. It's going to slow me down, and more importantly, it's going to damage the other members of the team too. And we have a responsibility to the other people on our team. We have to be successful because we need to make sure they get paid. Yep. And that's always been a big thing. And I think to every person on that currently works with us now. They'll always tell you that, we'll always sacrifice to make sure that they're secure, they're stable, and the business first before, Kevin gets a new car or something,
Mm-hmm.
New car. That's never going to happen.
Yeah. And I think you're right too, of your teammates, when you see A players around you, it levels up everyone's game together. So, completely agree. Before I go any further there, Gabe had a really good question. Gabe Chase here. He said, do you use the same things in every flip? Like when you're talking about systematizing it, do you have your set materials, your set process, all laid out already, or can you kind of dig into that again for us?
Sure. I'll take this one. For general, obviously every house can be a little different. So, but for the most part, we work relationships with local vendors. So always the same kitchen cabinets, always the same countertop and style. Like Kevin said, we also had always the same paint. We actually store a whole bunch of probably about 500 gallons of paint on site at our warehouse, so that we have gallons of it, so our guys can do touch-ups as opposed to having to completely repaint a room. We also do generally the same light fixtures. All that kind of stuff we try to standardize, so it's easier when a light fixture goes bad, we just swap it out. The bathroom fan goes, we can just swap out the fan as opposed to the whole fixture, all that kind of stuff. Same with the siding for the most part. If we're residing all the houses, we're generally going with the same color, same D4, so that we can slap in a new piece if one gets blown off by the wind and ruined. So It just saves on cost and efficiency as well.
one of the things that's worth mentioning, though, is Matt mentioned it earlier, and this is really a key thing that so many people make the mistake of. Don't over renovate. Do it for the market that you're working with. So, I mean, we might have a standard kind of go-to, countertop place for things in a certain market. We may have a different direction, like a standard go-to Home Depot version of a countertop for a different type of market. You're not going to see. Sometimes you're not going to see flip or not, flip or buy and hold. Remember, you have to be able to pivot your business. You never know if that flip has to turn into a hold and rent. So you make sure you don't over renovate or don't under renovate, and do it suited to your market as well.
Exactly. And every, so we have a lot of single family homes. We have 16 unit buildings. We also have 2s and 3s and 4s. Each one might be a little different. And also we have stuff in Springfield, Amherst, Enfield,
markets.
All different markets create a different need. So, yeah.
Awesome. And I'm going to throw your guys' YouTube channel in the chat here as well. So Gabe, great question there. I know, let's see. There we go. So that is, well, that link will get posted within the description here as well. But you guys spend a ton of time kind of breaking down different deals and talking about all kinds of things that you're learning on there and also on your TikTok too. So definitely recommend checking that out. I will say anybody watching as well, feel free to keep asking questions. Again, all things real estate they can cover, but we're also going to be talking driving for dollars here. So I'm going to shift gears for a second here with you guys. And I know it's something we've talked about in the past, obviously, just given DealMachine and what we can help with. But can you talk about strategies that you guys use for finding deals, and then why driving for dollars is such a powerful one specifically for you as well?
Okay.
Well, I got to tell you, I do love driving for dollars mainly for, well, I could probably gush about this for an hour. Let's try to stay on track. One of the best things I like about driving for dollars is almost every single one of us is driving somewhere at some point during the day. It's a perfect strategy, and it's something you should just always be practicing for anybody that has a job or a career and they're commuting. Somebody that's going to school, somebody that's got household obligations and they're out running chores, dropping kids off at school, doing whatever it is that they're having to do on a daily basis. If you're spending time in a car, especially if you're that person who's like getting stuck going on detours to residential neighborhoods and it is like, oh my God, it took me an hour to get somewhere today. Make that time fun and enjoyable, but also make it freaking profitable by paying attention to what you're driving around. I mean, it's crazy. So make your time behind the wheel work for you and be productive. If nothing else, it'll at least be something different you can do and something you're noticing. Now, people actually, if you like driving, if you have a car that you enjoy, I love, going for a cruise in a fun vehicle. I'm into cars. I like that kind of stuff. If I'm going to go for a drive somewhere, maybe pick up somebody and go for a spin, a friend or whatever, and a date. I don't know. Crank the music up, go for a cruise, and make that part of your thing of what you're doing. I mean, it's just such a fun, easy activity. I live stream this kind of stuff on our TikTok all the time. Actually, not so much the last few weeks, but I do it a lot. And it's just awesome to be able to, describe the kind of things that I notice as I'm driving down the road. I call the blue tarps you see on the roof, I call it like, the Driving for Dollars official flag. They're just like raising this big blue flag for you. It says, screams, pay attention to me. But I also like driving for dollars because for me, I don't like rejection, which is kind of ironic because that's pretty much how my life has always been, full of rejection. And I like the idea that I have a higher success rate per lead with a driving for dollars strategy than I do with like a mass mailer strategy or, whatever, posting bandit signs, whatever it might be, because I know that a lot more of this stuff is in my control. So when Matt drives around and he sees a property and he's like, Kevin, oh my God, you should see this absolute dump of a house. You got to go talk to these people. I'm pretty sure that somebody lives there. I'm like, sweet, it's occupied. I actually love occupied properties because it's so much easier to find the people who owns it. They probably live there, So you just go, I'll go and I'll knock and have a conversation with somebody and I'll say, hi there, your house is terrible. Nice to meet you. No, I don't do it like that. But the bottom line is one of my biggest hurdles I've always had, and it's so frustrating for me, is having people ignore me and not want to talk to me, or just get shut down without having the ability to really even express why I'm trying to talk to them. So I like driving for dollars because it's way easier to find the occupants, usually if it's lived in especially, and you can actually see the property. You're not going off of a vague street view image. You're not going off of a vague lead or a photograph that might be outdated. So for me, it's higher success rates per lead, and that leads to a better sense of accomplishment versus rejection.
Yeah, and I know you I know you make the joke on the door knocking side, but I would love to hear like the marketing plan for you guys. Like, is it door knocking or is it mailers or is it a combination? And I even like when you do knock on the door, like what is that conversation? Like what are some of the ways to have the conversation in a a graceful way to show like, hey, you can solve a problem for them if they have an issue,
That's a great question. Can I grab this one too? Is that all right?
Oh, sure.
I'm just going to keep monopolizing out of the way, man. I want to. So I mean, I like 100%. I like verbal and if possible in-person communication versus any other kind of marketing strategy, any kind of mailing and texting, emailing, and any of that kind of stuff. One is it seems like a lot of people do the mailers and all that kind of stuff, and there's a low percentage rate. I don't see the harm of sending them out there, but I'm not going to get all excited about saying, hey, I sent out 100 or 1,000 mailers. When it comes to door knocking, like I said, I prefer to do it because you're in person. And to be quite honest, you could probably run a little social experiment yourself. People are less likely. It's way harder to slam the door on somebody than it is to just hang up the phone on somebody. So for me, right there, a lot of people have a different demeanor and a different level of comfort rejecting you when you're having a conversation in person with them versus simply calling them on the phone. But what I tell people on TikTok all the time when I get asked this is, what's your objection? What's your opening? What's your hook? What do you do? How do you introduce yourself? I usually tell people the core concept should be your first few seconds of your interaction with your target person that you're trying to talk to. And this could be for door knocking. This could be for meeting a girl in a bar. This is to buy yourself. Your main objective is to buy yourself a few more seconds of talking to them. Your main objective is to get them to not hang up and not slam the door on you. So I like to have a conversation with them and start off with, real simple. And I kind of blunder my way through it every time. He loves the fact it's like there's no script. There's no script, because if you're reading a script, you're gonna sound like you're reading a script. We've all taken those phone calls. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so. We like,
right.
and what you're like, oh God, just get to a pause so I can say no thanks and hang up on you. You're not doing anybody any favors by make it genuine, make it you, and go with an approach that works for you. For me, if I'm knocking, I come up with this approach. I can't see my hand on the bed. My hands are usually like this. I knock on the door. I step way the F back. I mean, I'm like back several steps, and I'm like, hi there. My name's Kevin. I get right to the point. Tell them I'm a human. I'm not like Mr. Big Shot real estate investor. I'm like, hi there. My name's Kevin. You don't know me, and I acknowledge the fact they don't know me, So again, we're hitting all the kind of uncomfortable things. When these guys are opening the door for you, I'm telling you what they're thinking. You've thought it yourself. Maybe you don't realize it, but you're like, do I know this person? What does this person want from me? And how do I get rid of this guy? You know what I mean? So I'm answering. I'm just going right down a checklist, checking these things off, and I'm bringing up the uncomfortable pieces that they, are thinking. We're all thinking, So hi there, my name's Kevin. Just my first name. I'm not like I'm Kevin from whatever enterprises, and I want to give you an amazing cash offer on your house. No, don't do that. That's not you. That's not anybody. So my name's Kevin. You don't know me. And then I try to tailor it to something local. I actually just bought a house down the street from you, or actually, I live in your neighborhood, or, I've said a bunch of different things like that. So something along those lines. My friend lives down the street. I drive by your house every day. I wanted to stop by and, reach out to you. I'm actually looking for my next renovation project. I'm actually finishing on a property just on the other side of your neighborhood, and I'm looking for my next project. I know this sounds weird, but would you have any interest in selling? I'm looking for a fixer-upper, and that's it. I mean, that's it. You're addressing who you are. You identify yourself. Just basic, polite introduction. Acknowledge the fact that they don't know you. You're not a big shot. You're just a regular dude that just wants to maybe buy a house. And then kind of acknowledge the fact that this is kind of weird. I mean, who does this? I'm sorry, this is kind of odd. I know this is unusual, but and then so put that out there. And then the last thing is get to that freaking point. Don't sit there for an hour and a half before you tell them why you're there. Tell them why you're there. Looking for my next rehab project. Would you ever be interested in selling your house? I'm looking to buy a fixer-upper. It's a nice way to say your house is.
Right. And it's something, I mean, it's a weird, like you said, it can feel weird at first, I think. I mean, is that something you've gotten better at over time, and that you kind of, just when the first time you did that, like, is that something that did you or you have any tips for people who are going through that first time that helped you get it through it and get better at it? It's like,
chances are nobody is going to like physically assault you when you do this. So what's the worst that's going to happen, right? They're going to just shut the door on you. They're going to say, you're going to train wreck it. And they're going to say, dude, get lost. Don't come back. And I mean, is that pretty much the worst, right? So, I mean, if that's the worst, knowing that going in, it should take a lot of the concern out of it. Matt's done it. I mean, Matt's had these conversations with people, and we don't let Matt talk to people. So, I mean, if he can do it, this guy can do it right here, folks. So can you. But I will tell you, I will absolutely tell you, you're going to fail a few times, 100%. You're going to learn from those rejections. Say, oh, I should have said this, or you know what, I said like 15,000 times. I gotta get to the point faster, whatever it might be. Once you get a lead, or you close a deal, like a lay down deal, once you get a legitimate lead on it, it is going to take all that rejection washes away. You were just floating. You don't even feel the ground underneath you as you're running back to your car. You're just like, yeah, I can't believe this is amazing. and you cannot wait to talk to more and more and more people. So once you start working leads and getting actual like interest, you know what? I don't know. I was thinking about it. I inherited the house. The house is too big for me. My family, grew up, moved away. And, I don't know, maybe if you gave me a good price on it, like, oh my God, like what do I do? This is working. I got to call Kevin. What happened? Or what do I do next? You're going to be so excited. You're not going to worry about rejection the next time you go out and make an approach.
Yeah. At that point, are you, when it comes to actually putting out an offer like that, are you saying, hey, let me talk to my partner, or do you have something in mind already coming into it? Or like, what are your what's your process there on the actual like offer piece of it?
Yeah. So again, it's the weirdest thing. I almost feel like maybe I have like amnesia, because every time I do a new one of these things, it's like me doing it for the first time. And that's probably the real key to it, is it always comes across as really genuine. And if my approach is that I'm not some big shot real estate guy, because if you're a big shot real estate company, they want big money from you. You're rich, and all that. So you're a developer. Come on, I'm just a guy that's thinking about maybe buying a house. Don't overcomplicate this. You know what I mean? Would you sell it if I gave you money? Great. I mean, it's real simple concepts. So keep the concept real simple. So in that line of thinking, when it gets to the point of like, well, how much would you give me for it? I'd be like, oh, well, I mean, I'd give you a great price on it, a really fair price. I just have to have somebody who's really experienced with, yes, this guy with a really experience, like a contractor, somebody to come take a peek at it, probably 10, 15 minutes. I'm not talking like a all day home inspection. I would just want somebody to take a quick peek at it, and I'm sure we could sit down and come up with a great price that's fair for everybody, and then I would just tag him in. So, I mean, make it really super simplify this stuff. I mean, it seems like a big deal to sell a house. I mean, it kind of does seem like a big deal, but when you make it sound like that, it's not that big of a problem anymore. And we do it every day. Yeah.
I mean, you guys, it's impressive what, that you guys have done this. When did you start partnering? You said, was it 2010? Is that what you said?
2008.
2008. Okay, there you go. So over those years, you've probably, learned quite a few lessons, even just from a partnership perspective. So is that something, I mean, I think a lot of people watching, or a lot of people, thinking about buying that first property, they probably have other buddies they've talked about doing it with potentially. And they said, oh, let's go on a house together. Going into it like that, do you have any tips on partnerships and how to structure that from the beginning, so you don't have any big pitfalls or anything?
I'll start with this.
Yeah, sure. Help yourself. I've been ranting for a while.
So, first off, everything should be in writing. You should come up with some kind of operating agreement, work with maybe a lawyer that specializes in this kind of stuff. But because no one goes into things thinking things are going to go wrong, but they can go wrong. And having things spelled out ahead of time, so you know how you'll handle certain situations, is important. Or if someone wants to be bought out, or they want to move on, and which is completely fine, but you need to know how that's going to be handled. So I think that's the first thing. Then the second thing, I think, is understanding that not everyone will always bring the same value, and how do you actually determine what that value is, so that you're all fairly compensated. Because I think all too often people get into this and they're like, all right, we're all going to be equal partners. And then, Matt does all the work and Kevin doesn't do anything. And so therefore Matt feels resentful that, I'm doing everything.
I'm not comfortable with this analogy per se.
All hypothetical here. Yeah.
It's just, a hypothetical situation. But those are some of the two things I think. that I would really recommend is just, having a really frank discussion, open discussion with the person you're sitting, and I've gone into business with my little brother, with my best friend and, an ex-girlfriend, all that kind of stuff. So, and I've made those mistakes. I said, all right, we're going to all be equal, for operating agreement, what's that? We don't need that. Well, I'm sure when it ends, it'll all be, amicable, just like every relationship ends. Great.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's also a lot of times you're in a situation where maybe it's family, maybe it's a really close friend. Like it's a situation where you want to help each other, but also, anything you can do going into it to be ready for it, if, bad things happen, that's going to save the relationship in the end in a lot of ways, I think. So,
Right.
Yeah, good tips there. I know you guys gave great tips on the marketing part of driving for dollars, like, knocking on the door and all that. For the list building part too, I would love to hear your thoughts there on, I know you talked about like, hey, just drive around and as simple as that on your commute, look for properties. But if you have any other systems around, like, do you have, how are your other team members driving? How are you building that list? What are you looking for? Any tips there? I think people will find really valuable too. So if you don't mind shifting gears again back on the driving for dollars stuff, would love to hear that as well.
So sure. So we definitely build lists. We tend to stay away from like the lists that are already curated online. We actually like to create our own lists. And I think the first thing is figuring out, because you're looking for distressed property, and that means many different things. So pre-probate, making connections with probate lawyers and talking to them and getting them to send you leads, and then adding that into your system where you're driving over there and checking it out. Talking to code enforcement and getting condemned property lists. That clearly there's a distress there when the city is condemning a property. And sometimes condemning a property can be, in our area, as little as their grass is too tall. Yeah. But I mean, that's good ways. And then I think, just kind of understanding different processes, like legal processes and stuff like that, and figuring out where are the ways that you can kind of, step in and maybe help someone in a situation, whether it be a foreclosure, or if some people, some states now have, court documents online. So you can go online and start looking at, notices to quit, and which is generally when the start of an eviction process. So maybe they're having problems with their tenants. Maybe they want to get out of being a landlord.
Especially now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So looking at what you have available in your state, every state's a little different. Maybe you're looking at other states, but understanding those processes, whether it's a judicial state for foreclosure or non-judicial state, is it a tax deed certificate or is it a tax deed state? How did that work? And understand, like learning that process. And then once you understand the process, you can often figure out, okay, well, where's the loophole, so to speak? Where's the something that's not being caught that you might be able to step in, help that person so they don't get evicted, or help that person so they don't lose the house and get foreclosed on. Maybe, you can step in, figure out that distress where it's a win-win situation. Obviously win for you, so you get the property and you can make some money, and win for them so they don't, maybe they save their credit or, put some money in their pocket, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
It could be also something as simple as letting your friends, your family, people you work with, whatever, coworkers know, hey, listen, if you see a rundown property, if you drive by something that's looking a little distressed, everybody knows that house on their block where the guy passed away and been sitting and the lawn has been mowed to one of the neighbors mows it. I mean, give me that address, let me know. And tell you what, if I do something with that property someday or whatever, I'll throw you a bone on it or something like that. Or just, it's not a lot of work. Just, text me an address of a rundown property when you drive by it or a couple of pictures. Mm-hmm. And maybe I'll make, you make a few dollars on it in the process.
Yeah.
Social network to help you.
Yep.
Yeah. I know you guys, I know you mentioned your team gets involved with driving. Do you have any kind of systems in place there of, goals on how often they drive or, accountability on reviewing the leads you're driving or anything like that you guys can share?
Not that organized. Jesus. No, really, we have people are out in the field all the time, and maintenance staff and, some of our managers here. And, when they see something, they say something.
More casual. Yeah.
Yeah. But we also do have a couple of people that just focus on, driving down leads for us. And they, we definitely work with like a CRM that where they can actually track their leads, track their progress, put the notes in, stuff like that. But like our average worker, we literally had our whole team always looking for deal. So just the other day, Jessica, for instance, was out and about running around with her dad, I think on a Saturday or something. Right. And she drove by a property and she texted me, "Oh my God, add this one. This is a great deal." And I was took a picture of it, had her, tarp on it. It was out in like, I don't know, it was out in the
tarp on the roof.
Right. It was in the country or something. And she's like, "Go check this out." So that kind of thing, all of our team knows to always keep their eyes open. Yeah. And that's how we've worked it.
Awesome. Love it. I know we're coming up. We've got about 10 minutes or so left. So if there are any other kind of burning questions here, here we go. We had one pop in here as well. If there are any other burning questions, feel free to throw that out. I know I've had a lot of questions for you guys already. And I think you, in your social media content as well, you do a great job talking about both the real estate market as well as your mindset about being an investor. So if we have a minute here, I'll dig into that as well. But we do have one question coming in here from, let's see, Elise. She said, "How do you pay your drivers?" Is that where you're saying, "Hey, I'll, if I land a deal, then we'll share a piece," or is there anything else you guys do there?
Yeah, I mean, we don't think we have really anything really set in stone on it. Basically, we would kind of tag them or associate them with a lead, so that if something did happen, I mean, these things don't always happen overnight. They might happen a year from now. Who knows? So I want to make sure that whoever brought it to our attention does get some kind of credit for it. If we make money, we want somebody else to make some money.
Exactly. It's generally a referral fee or something to that effect. The ones that have just focusing on that, they get basically kind of a salary and then commission on top of that. For every lead that they bring.
Awesome. For the full-time drivers you're talking about?
Yeah. For the other ones, we have even people like from code enforcement, sending us leads and stuff like that. So of course, where we can, we give everyone a referral fee, just like a real estate agent would.
Makes sense. Yeah. Awesome. So going shifting back on the market piece. I know you talk about this often on your YouTube. Again, everyone watching this, check out their YouTube channel. They're always putting out great stuff there. Obviously this is always evolving, and it depends on, the month that you ask somebody this, and there's no crystal ball or anything, but what are your current thoughts on how you're treating the market, and are you changing your actions at all based on what's going on right now? And, would love especially for the people who are new thinking like, oh, should I get into real estate now? Like, is now the right time? How would you kind of answer that question?
So I answer this question a lot, actually, and it's always the same, is that it's always a good time to get into real estate if it's a good deal. So it really depends on the deal. If I find a good deal, whether the market's hot but the numbers work, then I'm buying it. Right now, there aren't as many great deals that we're finding, so we're not buying as much. But I'm definitely personally seeing the market softening a little bit. I'm seeing large banks kind of pulling back on their lending. So you're seeing the average home buyer the market is shortening and getting smaller, whereas yet you're still having a lot of flippers out there looking for deals, but yet the actual end buyer is smaller. The banks are tightening on, kind of almost back to like 2012 when the lending standards were really, really tight, and they only wanted the best, people with 800 credit scores and all this kind of stuff for the most part. But so I'm starting to see that. So there is a shift, and then new home sales just last month is actually down 24%. New homes sales, which hasn't happened, I think it was like 10 or 12 years. So it's been a while since that's happened. And typically when you see new home sales, and just looking at historical data, generally within the next 12 months, you start seeing also, the home prices also coming down. So I think exactly. I think it's coming. The beautiful thing about real estate, it's not a very efficient market. So things don't happen overnight or within minutes like crypto or the stock market. It will take time for things to kind of happen. But if you're in the market and you're looking at it, you're going to see it coming. So you can pivot. And so, we for instance, the last few years, we've been doing many more flips and wholesales and wholesale deals. What we'll probably shift it back doing is buying a bunch more buy and holds as the prices come down. Great. And also, honestly, more likely not, rents are going to be going up. I mean, inflation and all these other things.
Let's hope. I mean, and that's that's the kind of stuff we teach on our YouTube channel. Is there's always a strategy in real estate to apply, no matter what the kind of market you have going on. So it's even better if you're going to be buying stuff. You can have the ability to be flexible and pivot your use of the property. Like I said, maybe that buy and flip becomes a buy and hold for a while, and you rent it out. I don't know, or Airbnb it. I mean, there's all sorts of different types of strategies. Maybe you're really concerned about the market taking an abrupt change. So maybe that's why you're, learning about DealMachine and wholesaling properties, because there's not really a lot of risk if you're just wholesaling properties. So, I mean, that's why we have, like I said, we have a lot of this kind of stuff on our YouTube channel, giving people all sorts of different feedback in terms of the different strategies you can use in really any market.
Yeah, and the key is just getting into it, taking action, and then from there you're going to be able to make those pivots.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I know that kind of touches on the whole real estate investor mindset, but I mean, you guys do a good job talking about that within your content as well. Is there, for kind of that first time investors or anything that, how they, their mindset and how they're approaching things? Is there anything that you see them commonly getting wrong, or maybe a shift you can help them make to really take action like this?
Well, I mean, I think analysis paralysis is a big thing for a lot of new folks. And then also just getting overexcited and maybe buying too much, biting off more than they can chew, and thinking everything is about numbers as well. I mean, so it could be one extreme or the other.
I would also say making sure they're networking really well, surrounding yourself with like-minded people.
Yeah.
When we first got involved, we got in part with the landlord association, the local landlord association. We actually became part of the board, and started familiarizing with other people in the market, talking to those who you want to be. So for instance, we were talking to someone who had 1,000 units, and learning from them, take them out for coffee, whatever it might be. And
a lot of good that did us though, Matt. Tell them what happened. You got to tell them what happened.
So yes, once again, victim of our own thing. Yes,
self-inflicted
wound from experience. Yeah.
Well, so we went and took out this gentleman who Cashy Kevin did. Took him out for coffee, sat down with them, and he asked, "What would be the first piece of advice you'd recommend I do as a aspiring entrepreneur? I want to buy hundreds of rental units, all this kind of stuff."
We basically had 2 units at the time. This guy had 1,000. I mean, and he was a good, well-established guy. He wasn't a sketchy investor. He was a really, really well-respected one.
Mm-hmm.
So what did the guy say? He's like, his number one piece of advice was get good property management software. And then what did we do?
We immediately ignored him, Matt. We totally ignored that advice.
I learned the hard way. Yeah.
Yep, we know so much better. No, spreadsheets and QuickBooks. That's all we need.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the time, in fairness to an extent, at the time, management software was very expensive. There wasn't like these freebie options or these very inexpensive options like there are now for people starting off. Yeah. And we were doing everything on a shoestring. We were trying to keep the lights on, guys. You know what I mean? So we couldn't spend hundreds of dollars on management software.
Well, sometimes penny wise, pound foolish.
Bingo.
So often that's another mistake we've made all too often. And many new investors is they think skimping a little bit here and there, will save them. But long term, it's not. You got to think long term. You got to think 10, 20 years down the road. Don't, even when you're renovating, don't think about what's going to happen in 10 years. Does it make sense to get rid of the knob and tube now? Probably, because you're going to probably have time issues with it later. You want to keep those old wood windows. No, ideally, if you can, put new vinyl replacements in. De-lead the apartment. Make it safe. Don't worry about it once you have a tenant that has a kid under 6. And now you're like, crap, now I have to de-lead it. Damn.
Yeah. Well, it's on. Good luck with that.
Right.
Yeah, I completely and really, a lot of times it's kind of shifting that mindset of thinking, this is it's not an expense, but it's an investment in my long-term success. So it's saying like, hey, like you said, you can skip on stuff, you can do the free route or the cheap route for now, but you might be paying for that later. Multiple X. So completely understand that. I know we're running up against the clock here today, guys. I really, really appreciate you both coming on, shifting around your schedule. Kevin, I'm glad things are okay. I know on my end, we'll be sharing this out with our entire network. We appreciate everybody watching here as well. But where all should people be following up with you guys and finding you guys? Is it mostly through your social content, or what all are you up to that people can be getting in touch with?
Yeah, so you can definitely find us on Two Guys Take on Real Estate, basically on YouTube and TikTok. We're very prominent there. We're starting to go live on YouTube weekly, awesome. And we go live on TikTok mostly daily on that. And we're always posting a lot of content, and we answer a lot of questions. So yeah, feel free to reach us out there.
Perfect, guys. Well, thanks again. I really appreciate both of your time.
Awesome. Thank you
so much for having us. We appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing everybody out there in YouTube land too.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. That's Matt Camp with DealMachine, and all you watching, happy deal finding.